bunch of old, well.
I used to collect the different mail pieces and then divide them up into folders of who won their primary, who won the general, and then and then it's a level of nerdness that's
wow.
I'm only slightly embarrassed by it, but
all right. Good evening, everyone. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Jared Shablon, and I am the chair of the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus. I want to start by thanking everyone who is joining us for Delmarva Rising fundraiser this evening. The 2020 presidential election was a big cycle for us here on the Lower Shore. John Michael Andes was elected to the Worcester County School Board. We had huge victories on both ballot questions 1 and 2. Several counties, including Talbot and Kent, flipped for Joe Biden, and we had our best performance since 1996, coming 760 votes away from flipping Wacomico County from Joe Biden. Why we didn't flip the county? We did have the Salisbury metro area had the 7th biggest anti-Trump swing in the entire nation. That's right, you heard that right. We had the 7th biggest anti-Trump swing in the country, beating places like Baltimore, Nebraska's 2nd congressional district, and several other battleground areas. Tonight, the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus is ready to take it to the next level. We have started a PAC, and every dollar raised will be used to elect progressives here on the Lower Eastern Shore of Maryland. That will start with the important municipal elections in 2021 in small towns like Pittsville and other communities across the Lower Shore. And then in the all-important 2022 midterm elections, where we'll look to win back state delegate seats and county council seats to get the representation the Lower Shore needs in governance. I want to start tonight by recognizing some members who have made this all possible. Our treasurer and communications chair, Karen Smith, Hal Ginsberg of Our Revolution Maryland, Justin Butler of the Maryland Democratic Party, Judy Davis of the Worcester Democratic Party, Wendy Davis, who helps with communication, and many other folks who make everything we do possible. Before we jump into our first speaker, I'd like to ask everyone to, if they can, click the invite button and invite folks to this meeting. We have a lot of great guest speakers, and we have a lot of positive things going on here across the state and on the Lower Shore. We definitely want to bring as many like-minded individuals in here tonight for tonight's great event. And if you can afford it, please consider chipping into the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus PAC. As I said earlier, every single dollar raised is going to be used right here on the Lower Eastern Shore and used to help elect progressive candidates here. With that said, I want to introduce our first speaker for tonight. She has provided legal representation for many community-based projects, such as the Baltimore Neighborhoods Incorporated, the National Federation of the Blind, and United Workers. She has been a champion on various issues, including criminal justice reform, the environment, and education. And her work on the environment has been so good. She was rated a green champion by the Maryland League of Conservation Voters for sponsorship of priority environmental legislations. Please join me in welcoming State Delegate Brooke Learman.
Thank you. Thank you, Jared. It's such a pleasure to be here and to see so many folks, great folks on this call tonight. It's an all-star lineup. So, we're all here for you, Jared, and the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus, because we know what you know, which is that you can't win if you don't run, right? And so it's really important that we have great candidates run for office all over the shore and that they have the financial support they need to be successful. So I'm just so pleased to be here with all of you, everybody here tonight, to to support this event and to support you and the important work that you're doing in making sure that we can field a progressive and full lineup of people running in both the municipal elections and in 2022. I have a really short amount of time, so I just wanted to say, a huge thank you for your work. I think it's so important that we continue to field candidates, to train those candidates through programs like Emerge Maryland, which I was privileged to be a part of, and Judy Davis, you mentioned others who have been a part of, and to make sure that we are running candidates who understand what it means to speak up for working families and to speak up for small businesses and for the environment. Because when we speak to the issues that matter to people's lives and we connect and we meet people where they are, then we can be successful and win. And then we can make a difference, right? Because we're not running to hold a job, we're running to do a job, and to do a job of building a better Maryland, building a better shore, to make sure that our families are successful and our small businesses are successful. And I think, we agree that the current rural policy framework is really outdated, and there are just incredible people, incredible organizations working to create vibrant and, entrepreneurial futures for their communities amidst really rapid economic restructuring in our state and our world. And the work that's happening in Salisbury, in the Lower Shore, is just really impressive. And we make that happen, and we help entrepreneurs and we help working families and the environment when we elect people who share their values. So we see exciting new projects like the Salisbury Main Street that was just redone, that is so impressive and incredible and will provide such an economic boon to the area. So I'm so pleased to be here to support you, to support this organization, and to support the people who are going to run and put their name out there and put in the effort, knock on the doors, talk to the people, go to community meetings, to really be important representatives at the city and at the county and at the state level for the good people of the Eastern Shore and the Lower Shore. So thanks for having me, Jared, and thanks for all the work that you do.
Thank you, Delegate Learman. I just want to point out, not only do you do a lot of work for your district, you also make time to help us out on the Eastern Shore. So we appreciate your continued support.
My pleasure. I'm always looking for an excuse to get across the bridge, Jared. I mean, isn't everyone? Thank you.
Our next speaker, before he was county executive, he was a state delegate who served as the chairman of the Baltimore County House delegation and was the youngest person ever elected to that position. He was recognized as one of the Daily Record's top 40 under 40 in 2019. Since taking office, he has provided record funding for Baltimore County Public Schools, made the county budget process more transparent, and created an office for ethics and accountability. Please join me in welcoming Baltimore County Executive Johnny O.
Thanks, Jared. It is so good to be with all of you. And of course, you put me behind one of the General Assembly's finest, and Delegate Learman. Brooke, great to see you. Thank you for your incredible words tonight. Jared, I want to thank you and the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus for the incredible work that you're putting in, first and foremost. And I will be among those. My donation is forthcoming, so look for it. If anyone out there has not yet supported the efforts of the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus, please chip in because the work's important. And we see what happens when we invest and when we organize. We have a new president. We have a new vice president on the way. The fog of the Trump presidency will be lifted soon. And really, that's thanks to the work of people on the ground like all of you. We saw that Talbot County and Kent County flipped. We know that we were so close with Wycomico County, and there's incredible momentum, and I think there's a lot of excitement there. You have incredible leaders on the ground. I remember coming and knocking for my friend, Mayor Jake Day, who I know is serving abroad for us right now. I remember seeing my good friend, Commissioner Hastings at the election night there. Thank you, Councilman, for your efforts. Fun story. We actually went to grad school together at UMBC, so there is some great cross-bridging synergies that's happening here in Maryland and online tonight. Salisbury Councilwoman Michelle Gregory, thank you for all you do. Judy Davis, I know you were mentioned earlier. Incredible folks out there that are just doing great work. And the fact that you have Jared, so many incredible people coming tonight. I mentioned Delegate Learman, but delegates Lutke and Moon as well. I couldn't be more honored to join a more star-studded cast. Look, when I ran for this office, people told me I didn't have a chance to win. And I said I believed in the people of Baltimore County, and I thought that forward-thinking, progressive ideas could win, and they did. They won by 17 votes in our primary, so we do know that every vote matters and the importance of organizing. But then we crushed our Republican opponent in the general, who was backed by Governor Hogan. But we talked to the issues that matter to people, and I think that's what Democrats and progressives are really good at. We talk about meeting the needs that are out there. And first and foremost, it's what we're doing in this pandemic. Working with partners, we've served over 9 million meals. We're doing testing and contact tracing. We're distributing PPE, eviction prevention, business support. And we're just out there making sure we get through this together. One of the first things we did when we came into office, we did lobbying reform. We created our county's first ever inspector general. We got on the ballot public financing of elections, and we passed it on the ballot with referendum last election. Thanks, Ben, for your support and your efforts there. But, you know, we're moving forward on sustainability. We are changing the way Baltimore County has the culture of Baltimore County into a more forward-leaning, futuristic, progressive, democratic way. We hired our first ever sustainability director, former Delegate Steve Lafferty. We are capturing methane. We have restarted glass recycling. We are looking at solar energy expansion, and we're looking to go beyond the mandates of the state. So when Delegate Learman puts that bill in and says we got to be 100% renewable, we'll be ready. We'll be ready to meet that goal. When Delegates Lutke and Moon push us to be there, we're going to say we support that because we're getting there. You know, we have $250 million pre-funded for school construction, and our state legislators are doing great work on Built to Learn, on Kerwin and the blueprint for Maryland's future. And having leaders at all parts of the state that believe in sustainability, that believe in education, that believe in working families, that believe in government transparency and connectedness. These are all progressive ideas. These are all democratic ideas. And so we have to invest in that message everywhere because it is a winning message. And so as we look forward to the next municipal elections, as we look forward to our next gubernatorial and state delegate and state senator elections, I'm all in to help you all get there. I want to invest in you. I want to be alongside you. And I couldn't be more honored to be invited because there's a lot of work ahead. We have to do the work, but when we do the work, we win. And thanks for leading on the Lower Shore on those efforts, Jared, and everyone else as part of the caucus here. Thanks again.
Thank you, Mr. Executive. And as much time pre-COVID as I've seen you on the Eastern Shore, I actually thought at one point you lived down here. So I want to thank you for all the time you put into this area. Also, a little birdie in the chat told me that today is your wife's birthday. So on behalf of everyone here on the Lower Eastern Shore, please let her know we wish her a very happy and safe birthday.
Well, she appreciates that. We actually got to spend our anniversary in October over in Easton. So we came across the bridge for our anniversary as well. So we try to spend as much time as we can all over the shore. We love it over there. Thanks, Jared.
Well, thank you. Our next speaker, every time you hear the word progressive, he's one of the first people in the General Assembly you think of. I would like to introduce, and I hope you join me in welcoming the connoisseur of Old Bay, Delegate David Moon from District 20.
Thanks for having me, Jared, and thanks everyone for being here tonight to get to the hard work of organizing all corners of Maryland. I am not from the shore, so I am not going to tell you how you should conduct your business, especially with my Old Bay scandals hanging over my head. And not only am I from Montgomery County, I'm from the urban hippie part, to be specific. Nevertheless, I would like to offer two observations, and I'll start with a simple one. And it's just that you can't win if you don't play. And so obviously we've got to get to the business of fielding local candidates in every seat, starting from the bottom up and organizing. And we got to make sure we do that in places like the Shore. So obviously we have redistricting heading our way. And so we don't know what the districts are going to look like. And frankly, the takeover we've been successful at doing, especially during Trump, across the state, has been phenomenal. Anne Arundel, Frederick, Howard, we had the run-ups where we took over the mayor's office, and the voters actually sort of handed it to us on that one. They nominated a restaurateur to be our party standard bearer in Annapolis, and not a retiring state senator, as it turns out, but he won. And so we've got this new face of the party emerging, this new energy, and all sorts of candidates like that emerging. So I really think the Shore is the next stop, especially in a post-redistricting world. And while we, the sort of top line numbers are about the Democratic wins and losses, hidden within that, I would point out that Biden won not just Kent and Frederick, but also Chestertown, Cumberland, Frostburg, Hagerstown, Salisbury, and obviously a lot of those are college towns. So organizing in all corners of the state goes hand in hand with mobilizing youths. And so the second observation before I shut up, and again, this is, I can't comment on how you all should run in the Shore, but I will just say, I don't think we need to hide our desire to fight injustice, even in sort of purple parts of the state. And so I was sort of very intrigued, heartened, and curious to see in some of the purple areas that are flipping now to blue, the newly elected Democrats have actually held to their promises to say overturn immediately English-only ordinances and local ICE deportation and things like that, stuff that, depending on who you talk to in the party, is problematic for us. But I really think, we win and gain these seats with a lot of national and statewide waves. And so let's just do the right thing and have that be our policy and not worry about the rest of it. And since this is the orientation of your caucus, I think you would agree. So thanks for keeping it real.
Well, thank you again, Delegate Moon. I have to say you were far too humble in your speech. You've always been there on pretty much any legislation. You've always been there as someone who's been proudly supporting progressive policies, and you've also been somewhere that we can reach out to on the Eastern Shore for guidance and support. So we definitely appreciate your voice, and just because you're from Montgomery County, just know you're welcome here anytime, and we always love to hear your input and your expertise. So we definitely can't wait to work with you more in the future. Our next speaker is a local speaker, a good friend of mine, someone who is a rising star not only of the Democratic Party, but of the progressive movement out here on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, the Lower Shore. He was one of the youngest elected city council members in city history. He is a local civil rights leader who was one of the leaders of the local Black Lives Matter protests this summer to honor George Floyd and call on much needed police reform. And he's definitely a rising star in our movement and a big supporter of the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus. Please join me in welcoming Pocomoke City First Vice President Todd Knock.
Good evening, everyone. So many friends. I see so many faces. My sister Amber Green, my sister Michelle Gregory, Karen Smith, Justin Butler, Judy Davis, Wendy Dennis, Jared, of course, Josh Hastings. So let me just start by saying hello. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Council Member Todd Knock from the city of Pocomoke City, and it is truly an honor to be with you guys tonight. Just a little bit of background. In 2008, when I had to register to vote, and of course I had to register for the draft for the armed services, I registered as a Republican. So, I know a couple people are sitting here looking like, wait a minute, what is he doing here? I soon learned that I was definitely on the wrong team. I became a Democrat, and then I realized that I was a progressive, so it was a great thing. And it is a great gift of life to be able to learn and to be able to grow. I'm sitting before you today. Right now, I serve on a council of 5 council members, and we have a mayor. And I am actually up for re-election in April. We don't know what we're going to do just yet. We don't know how April is going to look. But the one thing that I want you guys to know tonight is that I'm going to remain constant. I see the strides in the work of the Progressive Party, because we are the Progressive Party. I see the strides and I see the work, and I believe in it wholeheartedly. And for the people that don't know me, and the people that do know me can contest to this, they'll speak up on my behalf. I'm a fighter. And I don't surround myself by people that don't believe in fighting. I stand up for what is right, and I speak out for what is wrong. You know, growing up on the Eastern Shore, things were tough. You know, the first time I was called a nigger, I was 8 years old. You know, it's real. And, you know, I grew up, my grandfathers, my great-grandparents, they were sharecroppers, and I am their wildest dream. And I want my children, when I have them, don't have any yet, but I want my children to be my wildest dream. And I know that it is up to us, progressives, to pave the way for my children, so my children can have a fighting chance, so Amber Green's son can have a fighting chance. Because if we leave things up to the Republican Party, y'all, we're lost. We are lost in the sauce. You know, I fought in Pocomoke concerning injustices. You know, I'm not popular in Pocomoke. I just want to throw that caveat out there. I am not popular in Pocomoke. Pocomoke, for those of you that don't know, Pocomoke is the most southern town in the state of Maryland on the Eastern Shore. I can drive 4 minutes and I'll be in the state of Virginia. So I am not popular in Pocomoke, and I'm fine with that, because I've realized that I wasn't made just for Pocomoke, but I was made for the shore, and I was made for this state. You know, I was raised by a single mother. My parents divorced at a very early age, and my parents always taught me, even in the midst of their chaos, to have a voice and to speak and to stand up. So I'm happy to be here tonight, and I really hope that we can push this progressive movement on the Eastern Shore, because ultimately 20 years ago, what was a progressive movement on the Eastern Shore? There wasn't one. So in closing, I'm not going to hold you guys long tonight, but in closing, I'm happy to be here. I'm ready to fight. Listen, for all the people that are running for offices, if you need someone to door knock and campaign, the one thing that I saw when I decided to run for council is I saw a guy named Jared Shablian. And I didn't know Jared too well, but I knew about Jared and his door knocking. So I figured that I was going to take a note out of Jared's book, and I was going to get out there and I was going to door knock. And a lot of people didn't believe that I was going to win. But here I sit almost 3 years later, and I'm kind of like, am I doing this again? Am I signing up for it again? But so Jared, thank you for being an example. Thank you for setting the pace. And to Michelle Gregory, I just want to say that you're awesome. You rock. One of the joys that I did have, I've had serving on the Pocomoke City Council, serving on the Maryland Municipal League, is definitely watching you. You know, I watched you when you announced that you were running, and I was like, oh, she's going to tear that guy to pieces. You know, I watched your, I watched your campaign. I watched you. So thank you for not only setting an example, but being an example and being someone that I'm able and proud to say that you are my friend. And to Amber Green, that's all I got to say to you tonight. And to everybody else, thank you so much. And let's do what we have to do. When we vote, we win.
Thank you, council member. I have to say, your work down in Pocomoke has been tremendous. You really started to drag us out of the old South, and when it's time to go down and knock doors again for you, you already know myself and the LSPC are going to be down there hitting every single door in your district, whether it's in Pocomoke or whatever is in your bright future. Our next speaker is the executive director of the Phoenix Youth Project. She is known for running programs to empower the youth here in the Lower Shore, providing resources to help clients overcome tough times, and really give young people the ability to use their voice via art or an advocate to let people know and the community know what their actual desires are. She's also an advocate for social and racial justice, our youth, and ending homelessness. Please join me in welcoming Executive Director of the Phoenix Youth Project, Amber Green.
Welcome, everybody, and thank you for having me. Jared, you really pulled a fast one on me. I had no idea I was going to be with this lineup of amazing, amazing people. But honestly, in everything that you do as a leader and what the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus is continuously doing is they're showing and leading by example. And this night, this lineup of speakers is leading by example. Here I am, a grassroots organizer, a nonprofit founder. I have no political background. I have no legislative background, and I am here speaking about, progressive movement here on the Lower Eastern Shore. I'm a true testament of what it means that you can do whatever you want to do if you just literally step up to the plate. And I think what we're trying to do as young people, as a young generation, what we're trying to do right now is step up to the plate. And I am just so excited to have this platform, to utilize this platform to talk about the different issues that matter to me and the issues that matter to the youth that I'm serving. When I look at politics, I don't look at politics. I look at what I'm supposed to do. How am I supposed to serve? And it's unfortunate that the work that I do inside the community, providing resources, looking for housing, trying to make sure that everyone is treated fairly, trying to make sure that resources are administered equally. It's a shame that those efforts that I'm trying to do in the community for the community have been politicized. But if you want to politicize it, I can get political. Because at this point, in order for me to do my work as an executive director, what I have to do is also lift up the voices of the young people. And one of those things is to share their stories. I don't know if anyone knows right now, but in the state of Maryland, last year, it was said that 78% of the youth that were counted as homeless were African Americans. Our data is showing currently that in our homeless populations are overrepresented with Black LGBT youth, young pregnant moms, African American men. So if we look at the data, it looks at we have to have tough conversations. We have to look at mass incarceration. We have to look at the disparities and issues with healthcare. We have to look at housing. We have to look at, the economic disparities that's going on, but also the racial disparities. I will be proudly saying that I am a Washington, D.C. baby. I am not from here. I am a proud come here. And I am firmly believe that because I am not from here, but I have decided to place roots here. I've decided to start a family here. I have my son. He's a beautiful brown baby boy. And I will tell you, the day that I gave birth to him was a day I could not shut up. And that was something that I feel like I had to be transparent as a young mom, as a Black woman, and definitely as a young Black mom doing this advocacy work that I'm doing. So I'm just really excited to be welcome into this platform, be welcome into this safe space to really just talk about tough issues and to talk about those uncomfortable issues and have leaders who are involved with Lower Shore Progressive Caucus, as well as leaders involved in different places. Like I love the fact that Todd, UMES, Hawk Pride, we are together as a crew. Shout outs to Michelle and everyone. I think that what a lot of people need to realize outside of the Eastern Shore, people from outside of the Eastern Shore need to realize that you can't mess with the shore. At this point, we are squad, and we are really, really trying to definitely let it be known that we're not just, the Hicks. We're not rednecks. Rural does not mean white America. Rural means America. And I think that we have to change the perspective of the other side of the bridge. And I'm from the other side of the bridge. I really love it. But there's definitely help that needs to be done here and work that needs to be done here. And again, I'm just so excited to be a part of this movement. And anything that you guys need me to do, I'll be there. I'll be the one to call people out. I'm not an elected official yet, so that means I still have free range to piss people off. So let me know whatever you need me to do. Again, thank you so much for this time. Jared, this is an amazing platform. And you know what? I'm so excited to keep working.
Thank you, Amber. And I do have to say what Todd touched on is just because you're an elected official does not mean you can still piss people off. So don't worry on that front. Another thing I have to say is I've been going into Amber Center the last couple of days, and she's been doing fantastic work for the youth and the homeless populations here on the Lower Shore. Due to the COVID and the economic crash, there are a lot of people out here that are struggling now, and there are a lot of people that don't have a place to go and have to, endure the cold. So if you have any old winter coats, especially for men's sizes, please, by all means, drop them by the Phoenix Youth Center on Florida Avenue in Salisbury. There are a lot of folks struggling, and there are a lot of people who need a hand up until we can get some resources from the federal government. So just wanted to give that shout out as well. Our next speaker is the delegate from District 14 in Montgomery County, who is a staunch environmentalist dedicated to preserving the Chesapeake Bay and other unique natural places here in Maryland. His work on protecting the environment includes being involved in the campaign that saved Beltwoods in Southern Maryland, protecting the state's clean air law, co-founding the first countywide network of student environmentalists in Montgomery County, and becoming involved in the national environmental advocacy. He's also worked 10 years as a teacher in Montgomery County Public Schools and built his career on being a leading advocate for public schools and ensuring all students from out here in Worcester County all the way out to Garrett and everywhere in between receives a world-class, high-class education. As delegate, he has been recognized by many groups, including the Baltimore Child Abuse Center, the ARC, the Government Office of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, and the Humane Society of the United States. Please join me in welcoming State House Majority Leader Delegate Luke Eid.
Thank you, Jared. Man, you took me way back. Beltwoods. That I was like 15 in that campaign when we say Beltwoods. That was a while ago, man. Thank you so much for asking me to come by and say hi. I wish I could do it in person. And thank you to everyone for your support of the caucus and efforts to make sure that the Lower Shore has the voice it deserves in Maryland politics. I'll tell you, I may be from Montgomery County, and this is a bit of a shocker to people that aren't that familiar with Montgomery County, but I represent a district that's half rural. We have rural areas in Montgomery County, and I represent them. And I'm living proof that you can be a progressive and represent a rural area and do just fine with your voters. In fact, the part of my district that supported me by the biggest margin when I first ran for office was Damascus and Laytonsville, which is the most rural part of the district. And the reason why is simple. And I think everybody here who's an organizer, who's done organizing work knows it. It's about showing up. It's what our parents told us when we were kids. 90% of life is showing up. It's about showing up. I would knock on doors. This was back 2010 when I first got elected. I would knock on door after door after door in rural parts of my district. I remember one house I knocked at. I swear I thought I was risking my life because I go to this street and there's like one address in this on my door knock sheet on this street. And I get to the back of the street and there's a sign and like a little gravel path. And the sign says, no trespassing. I'm like, well, I'll give it a shot. And I walk back and I must have been walking for a quarter mile back through the woods, and it just got darker and darker under these woods. And lo and behold, there's this tiny little house sitting out on the woods. And I walk up and I knock on the door, and the nicest lady I've ever met, I swear to you, answers the door looking at me like I was crazy, because I can't imagine many people knocked on her door. And I introduced myself. I said, hey, I'm Eric Lutke. I'm running for office. And you know what she said? She said, I've never had a candidate knock on my door before. I have never had a candidate knock on my door before. And I got her vote. And actually the vote of her kids too, who she told me were going to vote for me if she had any say in the matter. And that happened time after time after time. The problem we have as Democrats in rural areas is we don't show up. We just don't show up. We have given up on too many rural towns, rural counties, rural states. And then we're surprised. We're surprised when they don't vote. We're surprised when rural voters don't vote for Democrats. It's not like rural voters don't care about the issues that we care about. Rural voters are progressive. They are progressive. They want good health care. They want a clean environment. They want job opportunity. These are progressive values, but we have to show up and make the case to them. So I'm so excited that the caucus is getting even more active than they've been in the past. I'm excited at the work that Councilman Knock and Councilman Hastings and Councilwoman Gregory are doing. I'm excited that we're going to have a full slate of candidates running for every possible office at every level government in the Lower Shore. And I'm here to say, as somebody who's from the Western Shore, as one of the leaders in the House Democratic Caucus, we're here for you. We are with you. You need us to come down, knock on doors with you, we'll be there. You need us to raise money for you, we'll be there. We have your back, because it's long past time the Lower Shore had the voices it deserved in the State House and in every county council. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Delegate. And well, I'm so glad we have that screen bite now. We'll definitely love to have you come 2022. One of my favorite stories that we've had, and a lot of people don't know this, is one of our next speakers actually came out and visited the delegate. As you all know, Delmarva Rising is not only what's happening politically, but climate change is causing sea level rise here on the Eastern Shore. And we struggled in the past to get a delegation to care. So we set up a meeting with Delegate Lukey, and we went into his office. Everything that could have possibly went wrong, and we ended up being 30 minutes late. That didn't matter. He sat down, he talked to us, took time out of his day to not only deal with the many issues that are happening in his district, but also sat down and talked to us about climate change on the Eastern Shore and how we can protect our communities. So I thank you for your leadership of the Democratic Party. I thank you for the work that you've done on the Eastern Shore. You know, you've shown up, you've cared, we see it, and we definitely appreciate your leadership, and we can't wait to work with you moving forward. With that said, our next speaker was actually involved in this meeting. She has been an early childhood educator for 20 years. She has been involved with the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus for almost since the very beginning, and she has been instrumental in getting us to where we are today as an organization and as a group. Since being elected to the Salisbury City Council, she has spent her career protecting and improving workers' rights, disabilities' rights, housing rights, and environmental protection. Please join me in welcoming Salisbury City Council member Michelle Gregory.
Holy cow. So how am I supposed to follow up all these great speakers? I don't even know. So many of them touched on stuff that I wanted to touch on too, particularly the issue that rural issues are progressive issues are rural issues. You know, the things that rural Americans are dealing with on a daily basis are the issues that progressives are out fighting for every single day. And, you know, I want to give a little history here. So when I first joined the caucus, it was before the first meeting even, and I met Jared at a rally post-election, because everybody jumped in and got involved. And, you know, everybody was outraged. And I had been searching for something to do about it, because I hadn't, while my family had been heavily involved in politics before, I hadn't personally. And I felt like it was something that needed to be done. And I met Jared, I signed up, I was like, okay, yeah, you know, we'll see how this goes, whatever. Came to the first meeting, and, you know, the four guys who founded the caucus immediately welcomed everybody in. And if, you know, I kind of jumped in way more than over my head. But, you know, if we don't get involved, if we don't jump in blindly, nothing will change. We have to put the effort in, you know, and that's what the caucus has done. The caucus has put in the man hours. The caucus has done, as a group, has done incredible work. The legislative group for the caucus has tracked so many votes and organized them and put together an easy to read spreadsheet that shows you exactly how all of our delegates and senators have voted on subjects that are relevant to us on a daily basis down here on the Lower Shore. And that work is invaluable. And when Jared reached out to me and told me that they were finally creating a PAC, I left leadership when I ran for office, And Jared reached out to me and told me that they were creating a pack. I was like, yes, finally, because now we will have the means to put the power to action. Look at what we've done without a pack. Look at what we've done without funding. You know, this has all been 100% volunteer work. This has been 100%, you know, out of our own pockets. We've done this stuff. You know, we've built this movement to this far, and now we've reached the point where we can't build farther without the funding. And we absolutely, every single dollar that is raised here stays here. And I know that's incredibly important to the people who are involved on the lower shore, because too often we've seen fundraisers and things, and then the money goes somewhere else. You know, donating at the state level, it always means that the money is going somewhere else. It's not being focused here because we've been neglected. We've been forgotten. You know, we've been the forgotten area for a long time. I know I've lived here. I'm a come here, just like Amber, married into a family that probably can trace its roots back to their original settlers. But, you know, I'm a come here. And my entire time here, you know, I have not known somebody to I think I had one person knock my door prior to 2016. And that's changed. And what's changed about that is the caucus, you know, and to be able to take this to the next level, to maximize our impact. Raising money is going to be vital. So even if you can just give $5, that's an immense amount. You know, if you can do a monthly donation, that's a huge amount, because the work we do here is invaluable. And Nick is, I'm sure you guys can hear him getting worked up in the background. But you know, the work we do to protect those who don't have a voice is invaluable. And making a donation can make the difference in the impact we're able to make.
Thank you, Michelle. And I want to start by saying it's good to actually hear Nick and see that he's doing better. I know he's had some health issues the last couple months, so it's good to hear him again. I look forward post-COVID to being able to see him again. Yeah, I have to hand it to Michelle. She really got our communications committee up and running before she was elected. And we've been very fortunate to have that work being able to continue with Karen and Wendy. I've been lucky, and this organization's been lucky to have 3 great communications leaders, but we would not be where we're at today without Salisbury City Council member Michelle Gregory. Our final speaker tonight is someone that you should all know if you've come to LSPC meetings. He is a proud native of the Eastern Shore, and he grew up on a poultry farm, actually Maryland's first certified organic farm in Mardella Springs. He has monitored federal, state, and local land use policy at a regional nonprofit for over 6 years. Previous to that, he spent 2 years as a legislative assistant to the chair of the Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs Committee in the Maryland State Senate. Since being elected to the Wicomico County Council, he has focused on improving environmental standards, upgrading the Salisbury Airport, and bringing jobs back to Wicomico County. It is my pleasure, and I hope you join me in welcoming County Councilman from District 4, Josh Hastings.
Thank you all. I can hear the applause coming through, even though it's muted. First of all, I really appreciate all the folks who are out here. I mean, it's great to say we've got some serious heavy hitter names, you know, that folks that are here on this call. I mean, it's really great to see, you know, Delegate Lukey, Learman, County Executive Olszewski, you know, it goes down the list. There's a lot of great folks, a lot of folks I see also that have tuned in from across the Eastern Shore and across the Bay. You know, this is that's really special, and you know, this is what organizing looks like, right? Jumping into this, I want to make sure I mention too. You know, I'm a proud Eastern Shoreman. 2 of my heroes that I just wanted to mention were one of them is passed away this week, Senator Paul Sarbanes. He's from Salisbury, Maryland, proudly. the Sarbanes family, they, the Sabanis actually is what they were, a Greek family in downtown Salisbury. And Brooke, you mentioned seeing the downtown redevelopment. I should have shown you where their old restaurant was. But they instilled those Eastern Shore values, instilled who they are. The very first paid campaign I ever worked on was to go work with, to officially go work in 2006 for John Sarbanes when he was first running for Congress. I was a field guy. And, I am so proud of that family. And from Paul's brother, Tony, who was on our county council for many years to, we now have Jimmy Sarbanes, he's a judge here locally. There's a lot of good folks, and those values and who that family is, that started here in my hometown, and I'm very proud of that. My other hero that I really think I want to mention, of course, is that of Norm Conway, the former chair of the Appropriations Committee. There's an individual who didn't have kids of his own in his family. They dedicated their lives to education and to be public servants. And that's what I've modeled myself after in my own work, in my own service. And I'm happy to be able to be on the county council for Wycomico. We've, Jared mentioned a lot of what we've been able to do. I will back it up and say the farm that I grew up on, you mentioned, that was my farm community that I grew up in was destroyed by sprawl development. It was unchecked. And I can never go home because the area that I knew, the bucolic, beautiful, pristine area that I grew up on in a farm community is now, they put up all sorts of housing and that is substandard and it's falling apart. It's all built on, not on sewer, but on septic systems and it's polluting. And the home values have dropped there. I saw what that could do to the environment. So I've spent the last decade now working in conservation and trying to find better ways to do things. And I've tried to use my voice for in rural ways. For a couple of years as chairman of the Rural Maryland Council. I spent a couple of years. I've now been on board of the Harry Hughes Agroecology Center. I've been trying to find common ground, and I think that is what a good rural Democrat or progressive can do. I'm proud the first thing I was able to do when I got on the county council was they were going to shoot down a park, Pirates Wharf Park, $1 million. The county council, had I not been there, I was the deciding vote. We would have given away an entire, redevelopment of a brand new park. It's a gorgeous space. And we would have given up on that. We would have also given up on, had I not been able to step in, we would have lost. We would not have maintenance of effort in our county for the school funding. We would have not had continued with school construction for Mardell High School, where I went to high school. We would have not. We would not currently. I was able to step in and be able for Meals on Wheels. All of these things that I was able to do. That's because I put my name forward, and I've spent many years organizing. I've knocked. Every single person on this call. I guarantee I've probably knocked your community, your neighborhood. Over the last 20 years, I've knocked a lot of doors across the state, and I've been working towards that. And I got to say, look who we have here and how great this is. Norm Conway used to always talk about one Maryland. There was one Maryland, and he knew that from he shouted that from Western Maryland to Baltimore City and beyond. When we made a decision, Norm Conway was always, well, what does that mean for Baltimore City? What does that mean for the Eastern Shore? And so I just want folks to know they can count on me to continue for those kind of values. I'm proud of the folks that I've worked with and the progress I've been able to make, but this is just the beginning as far as I'm concerned. And all of us who are showing up, we know why we are doing this, and we know why we've got to, we need to do more. Seeing people like Amber Green sitting here who's dedicated to make this her community and to really grow and to really have a powerful voice, and now doing amazing things for our community, pulling in hundreds of thousands of dollars. Hats off. So I guess I'll just end it with saying, the values that I have, I know I share among all the folks here. We're going to continue to do great things, and rest assured, every single one of you need help. I'll give my my last breath. We're gonna do good things together because you all deserve it. And we know what we're fighting for. So thank you all very much. Thank you, Jared, for helping put this together. And I'm proud to be amongst so many great, wonderful people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. And I have to say, since the LSPC is a newer organization, we started about 3 years ago. Josh has always been someone we could go to for expertise and on anything from legislation to organizing and knocking doors. I like to say brick by brick, and because of the bricks that Josh and Senator Mathias and folks like Sarah Myers and so many other have laid before us, we have been able to, build upon that. It's not like we just built this all ourselves. It's folks like Josh who have given us and continue to give us the bricks in which to continue building from. Now that we have finished our speakers for the evening, we do have a couple minutes left to do questions. If you have any questions, either on the Zoom or on Facebook, we do have some folks looking at the chat there. Please feel free to put them in the chat, and then we'll call on you to ask, or if you put it on Facebook, we'll have someone read it. Please try and direct your question if you can, because there are 8 speakers, and it'd probably be really difficult to get all 8 people to answer one question. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat now, or raise your hand on the participation screen. We have our first questions for actually the House Majority Leader here on Facebook, who said, you mentioned that you spent a lot of times knocking doors in the rural part of your district. What was the main messaging that you used for those communities?
I honestly, what I start with anytime I talk to any constituent is I ask them what's on their mind, right? And let that guide the conversation. So, the rural part of my district, I'd knock on some doors and folks were, they had questions about agriculture policy or about deer's a big issue. Deer overpopulation is a big issue in my district, and it's putting a lot of our family farms under a lot of stress. So I'd hear about that. But I'd also hear, I'd get people that were concerned about schools, or, you'd knock on somebody's door and they had a kid who had special needs, and so they had questions about special education. It honestly, those conversations should be driven more than anything by the needs of the people you're talking to. So, I mean, that was my message, was I'm here to listen.
Thank you, Delegate, and you definitely are one of us if you're hearing about the deer overpopulation. The next question is for Council Person Gregory, and it is explain how rural issues are progressive issues. I believe you mentioned that in your.
Yeah, so when I look at rural issues, things like for environmental issues, for instance, a big problem here in Wicomico County is the existence of CAFOs. If you're not aware of what those are, concentrated animal feeding organizations. They are very large farms, mostly down here, being the Eastern Shore, it's going to be chicken houses mostly. And what has resulted by allowing these is that 1 in 4 children in Wicomico County has asthma. To give you an idea of how egregious that is, the national rate is something like anywhere between 4 to 8% on average, depending on where you live. In Wicomico County, it's 25%. All 3 of my children have asthma. And that's because of the air quality here. It's terrible. And you think, oh, rural open spaces, you don't have pollution, that sort of thing. Wrong. We have that. And we have air pollution. It's just not in the same form. It doesn't come from automobiles. It doesn't come from, those sort of traditional factories. It doesn't come from that. It comes from these animal farms. Okay. And the fact that they're allowed to basically overpopulate. And what happens is you have foreign investors come in, buy a property, plunk one of these down. They don't live here. They don't feel the effects of it. They have all they're there is moneymaker for them. Meanwhile, the people suffer. And that's what I mean when I say that rural issues are progressive issues, because as an environmental issue, something that we can fight for, and we believe in good air quality, we can fight for legislation that will combat these kind of issues. Okay, because when they run unchecked, our kids suffer. Obviously. So, you know, this is what I mean when I say progressive issues are rural issues and rural issues are progressive issues. And it's not just on that, it's education, it's you know, making sure the teachers are well paid, it's making sure that, you know, workers are well paid and have a livable wage. You know, these are all issues that are huge problems in rural areas. And for almost every issue that there is in the rural community, the progressive policy is the best choice for that area. And that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that we're conveying that message. So, I mean, that's where I come from on that. You know, I think, you know, if it comes to knowing the people and knowing the issues, and like the delegate said, we need to speak to people and find out what their issues are, because we probably have a solution. We just need to connect the two.
Thank you, Michelle. The next question comes from Facebook and is for Executive O and Josh Hastings. The question is, how can with the federal government not providing aid to local businesses and people, how can county councils and county entities help keep businesses open and people out of extreme poverty during this crisis?
Josh, you want to go first? Well, first of all, I mean, we are all calling as local elected officials on the federal government to step up and do even more. The CARES Act funding was helpful, and we are using it strategically across Baltimore County and all of our jurisdictions to help people wherever we can. But the money can only go so far, because we've been asked to step in and do the testing, do the contact tracing, do the business supports, do the eviction prevention. And that money goes quickly when you start thinking about all of the work that we're doing. I mean, 9 million meals is not an insignificant investment. But the food insecurity in our county, which, you know, includes urban, suburban, and rural parts, is significant. And that insecurity knows no boundaries, right? So the first thing is, I want to see the federal government step up and do more, even if it's a short-term fix. But within what we've been given, I can just tell you, in Baltimore County, we have both tried to sustain businesses. So in the first shutdown, we had local business grants for all of those businesses that did not get PPP funding. And so we said, where are the gaps where the federal government missed? And almost 60% of those awards went to women and minority-owned businesses. And we helped keep those businesses afloat on that first round. And then as we continued along and it went longer, we said, okay, what else do we have to do? So we put millions of dollars out in the street for supporting outdoor dining safely, whether it's tables and tents and heating supplies, PPE for restaurants, deep cleaning, other business supports. We've supported our local artists. We really have tried to be as flexible and nimble as we can. We just recently announced another $10 million of supports. But that's, I mean, the business is one piece. We have $3 million of eviction prevention out the door, trying to help our families who are struggling. We have a child care credit for our lowest income families who you really are in impossible situations with, you know, virtual learning right now. But local governments can only do so much. We are, you know, it's government's job to step up and meet the need. And I tell our residents, if there's a need, we're going to step up and meet it. But we really are being stretched. And, you know, whether it's the county employees who are doing jobs that weren't theirs initially, or the frontline workers in our hospitals. And I had the chance to visit a hospital last night and thank and see the doctors, the nurses, the technicians. Man, the county employees and our frontline workers, all of them are just doing incredible work. So we're going to keep supporting them. We have all of the structures in place now. It's just a resource question. So we welcome anything that our federal partners can do, our state partners can do. And of course, we'll keep digging deep locally. So, Councilman.
Yeah, I'll just briefly add on to that. You know, the other day I was walking downtown and I ran into a friend of mine who, you know, is a prideful individual. He's not going to, you know, reach out for help, but he worked at a restaurant, and I was going to the restaurant and going by there to take pictures for another thing. But long story made short, he pulled me aside. He had me walk over the side and he said, "Josh, I don't have money for food." And you know, that when you get to those kind of moments, when you know that's where the federal government hasn't stepped in. When you've got people like that who are working at a restaurant, who deal with food all day, who didn't have money and didn't, you know, that hit me hard. And I know it. I mean, I'm seeing it already. This is where we really, you know, I think a lot of the conversations so far have been, how do we get, you know, for the next step, for the next round of funding, you know, what does that go to local governments? And they're really going to need that. But I got to say, for Wicomico County, we're doing a great job as a whole in trying to disperse the funds that are here and use the resources that are here. Recently, I've been going around to restaurants to try to keep them up, and ones that I know are vulnerable of forever closing, and dropping off. There's been a second round of restaurant funding, and Greater Salisbury Committee and Salisbury Wicomico Economic Development. Those have been working with them to do this, but trying to get the word out about other resources. But you know, we've got to get our federal folks to do more. And very briefly, Jared, adding on to the last question of what is, you know, rural and progressive, what does that mean? You know, rural broadband, something that we've been working on for a long time. For a long time, a very progressive issue that we had was telemedicine, which a lot of folks didn't quite understand. I'm glad we pushed it through for years, and that's become very helpful in a time like this. You know, but rural jobs generally resonate with, that's green jobs too, natural resources jobs, which is also progressive in many ways. So I'm gonna add on to that, but thank you.
Well, thank you to all of our guest speakers. It is 7 p.m., so it is time to begin to wrap up for the evening. I want to once again thank not only our speakers, but everyone who attended and supported us this evening. We truly appreciate it, and I think I speak from everyone from the bottom of my heart when I say it is truly appreciated, all the support and help and belief you have put in this organization over the years and for this event. I want to wish everyone and remind everyone to stay safe and healthy. COVID is still raging. Please wear your mask, social distance. You know, this has been a really scary time. I have family who works at the hospital and in the healthcare profession, and they need our help. And how we can help them is by being smart and you know, taking COVID seriously. I also want to wish all those who celebrate a happy Hanukkah, as tonight is the first night, and I just want to wish everyone a great evening, and thanks for coming. Goodbye,
Thanks
everyone.
for having us.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Great job, Jared. Great job, everybody.
Thanks everyone.